Bojo Giant. Oh, there's recording. Hopefully you're okay with that. Kendra and Desnikas. Hi, my name is Kendra Lowden. I'm the foster care and adoption manager here at the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Today we're going to be giving an overview of FireLodge Children and Family Services. And so we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. And I would like to introduce Ashlee May. She is our Indian Child Welfare Director, and she will get us started.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So kind of the first portion of this presentation is me just kind of going over FireLodge Children and Family Services, what we can offer service-wise about each of our departments, and to really talk to you kind of about Indian child welfare. So to get started, kind of how I explain to everyone is FireLodge Children and Family Services is kind of like a big umbrella. And underneath that big umbrella is 4 distinct departments. So we have Adult Protective Services, Family Preservation, Indian Child Welfare, and the Foster Care and Adoption Program. So Adult Protective Services actually has its own director, Janet Draper. She was formerly the Indian Child Welfare Director for the nation for many years, and she does have 1 case manager. So Adult Protective Services provides vulnerable Potawatomi adults, elders with protection from abuse, neglect, or exploitation, and offers them any services. So something that we commonly see them do is help our elders. They need to get into assisted living centers and nursing homes, help their family members get guardianship if that is needed. So they're really there to help provide services directly to the elders or to their family members. Our family preservation program is truly what its name says. The goal of our family preservation program is to preserve our Native American families and to provide that environment of safety and well-being for the family entirely through a holistic approach. And our family preservation program can actually serve members of any federally recognized tribe who are involved in the child welfare system for any reason, whether we're trying to prevent the removal of Native American children or we're trying to reunify that Native American family back together. So through that program, we do have services, direct services that we can provide. We can, our family preservation program has parenting classes, budgeting classes, family support, case management. Our family preservation coordinator has even attended court with some of the families to be able to provide that extra support for them and kind of stand up and let the judge know what kind of services they're involved in and how well they've been participating in those services. They also do in-home services, so that can be home safety checks to ensure that the home is a safe environment and like any conditions that needed to be corrected have. Next is a slide or as a picture of our family preservation coordinator. This is Darian Young. And so that way you can put a name with a face if you ever need to reach out for services for any reason. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about the Indian Child Welfare Program. So our ICW program provides child protective services, permanency planning services for families of Potawatomi children. So this program is specific to members of Citizen Potawatomi Nation or children who may be eligible for membership with CPN. So this kind of looks like what people commonly see with DHS. So we do have child protective services here where we can do child welfare investigations on our trust land. So that's when we provide that intervention to protect children and help with any difficulties they may be facing that causes their home to be unsafe. So that's what we're in there investigating. And so again, while every attempt is made to preserve our family, that is what we always want to do is work prevention. Sometimes that's just not feasible. And if a child's safety cannot be controlled and none of those services that we could put in a home would make the children safe, then court intervention, which means that the children would come into care, into ICW care and placed in a foster home or placed with a family member may be necessary. So these are our staff members of ICW. So Whitney Coots is our case manager and Desiree Pickering is our administrative officer. And so she handles kind of all our financial portions and our ordering of our supplies and services that we can provide to our clients. Um, and so who do we serve? Again, we are dedicated to serving every child welfare involved Citizen Potawatomi Nation family. And we legally intervene on our cases involving Citizen Potawatomi Nation Citizen Potawatomi Nation children nationwide. So what gives us the right to do that is the federal law, the Indian Child Welfare Act, that was enacted in 1978. Native American children were being forcefully removed from their homes and placed with people outside of their community. So non-Native families, they were being adopted and not, connected with their culture, connected with their families, those things that we find very important. So, and again, just to kind of go over, for us to be involved with the ICW matter, the child has to be enrolled or eligible for enrollment with CPN. As of April 2021, there were 112 CPN children in foster care nationwide. That number is probably a little bit more now. A couple months later, I believe it's about 120 that we have in care across the United States. So one thing that we did want to talk about a little bit too is what we did during COVID-19. Obviously, facing that as a child welfare worker was difficult, but our administration here at the Nation and our chief medical officer kept us very well informed of what we could and couldn't do, what was safe and not safe. So during the pandemic, we did not stop having court. We did not stop visiting our children. We did not stop making sure that our kids were safe. So kind of the innovative ways that we were able to help our families, where we were able to start offering things virtually in a safe manner. And we were able to kind of come up with ideas such as we did a lot of porch drop-offs. So if a family was struggling with diapers and wipes, for instance, we were able to just go to that home, drop that off on their porch, and there was no, seeing each other in person or anything like that. We were able to just, text them or call them and tell them, hey, we left this on your porch. We were able to do virtual visits, via FaceTime, something that we came up with our parents to do as well for their children who may be in foster homes was, have them record them reading a story to their child. We also had groceries delivered to some of our clients that someone in their home may have had COVID. We did see that a lot. And so that family isn't able to get out and get groceries so that they can remain in quarantine. So those are some of the ways that we were able to still safely, provide services to our families. So to kind of give you an idea of a timeline of an Indian child welfare case, every one of our cases start at a referral at the referral portion. So the referral portion refers to someone has a concern that abuse or neglect is happening to a child or children in a home. So they make that report to either DHS or to ICW directly. And so based off what the information provided, it would spark an investigation. So that means that ICW would go in and assess the family to ensure that there's safety going on or that what the safety looks like in the home, or if there is any. And so there's a complete process of interviews that take place, home assessments, home visits, verification, services, those type of things. And if there's a need, we try to put prevention or services in the home. So some of those, if a family is just really struggling, say with budgeting, we could put our family preservation program in with that home and help them budget better so that they maybe at the end of the month, they aren't struggling with with finances, and they're able to, have a little extra money for things they may need or want. We also can do parenting classes in the home. So anything that would prevent the removal of those children in that home. And then sometimes, unfortunately, the prevention services are not applicable. They're not, we have to do the out of home care. So, they're not appropriate, and we do need to remove that child from that home while the parents work on correcting some conditions in their home that led their children to be unsafe. So the first thing we do if children are removed from their homes is we start exploring placement options. So that's where Kendra comes in. We immediately gather names of family members that can possibly take placement, and we give those names to Kendra, get them in contact, and that's when she starts assessing them for placement approval. And there is a process to that, and she's going to go over that a little bit later in our presentation. And so sometimes, unfortunately, there are no relatives that are available or can, take placement. And so we do have approved foster families through our program, and we will start contacting them to see if they can take placement and what that looks like. And hopefully place, especially if it's a sibling set, we always try to keep siblings together as well. Sometimes we can't, but we always try to do that. Um, and so I know that sometimes there's a stereotype around, like, if child welfare is involved, that we're going to take your children, you'll never see them again. We get that a lot, but that is not the case. Our case plan goal almost always begins with reunification. So that means we're going to help the family, the parents, mom or dad, or mom and dad, reunify with their children. So offer them the services, help them correct those conditions that led to their children being unsafe, whether we need to, get them in counseling, get them in domestic violence prevention, whatever that may look like for the family. We really try to do that. And so that's when they're given a service plan. So that's something that the parents agree on. And it's certain services designed to ensure the safety and promote reunification efforts. And those are individualized, case by case. Not all of our ISPs, is what we call them, look the same. So, one family may have substance abuse issues and the next not. So, obviously we're going to address that with the family where that might be a concern. And another family, there's no reason, unless there's allegations for that. So we really do individualize, and that is an important word that we use. And we do make those with the families. We do tell them and talk to them about the type of services that they feel like they could benefit from as well. So then, obviously what we're working towards is reunification. So what that means for possible case outcomes is that custody is returned back to both of one or both of the parents. So that means that they worked their service plan, they've corrected those conditions, and so we can safely place those children back in with their parents. A guardianship may take place. We do see this a lot. We have a lot of guardianships that come through our tribal court. So that means that there's a legal guardian that gains custody of the children through court, and that the parents, they can agree and agree to that guardianship. And then sometimes there are some that are contested, and they always, get to go in front of Judge Lujan and express why they don't feel like that guardianship is appropriate. But, sometimes our cases do end up in guardianship, and we can still actually provide a lot of our services to the guardian and to the parent, as long as they're working towards dissolving that guardianship in some way. And then adoption, that is when, say reunification did not happen, a guardianship did not happen. So the parents' rights have been terminated. And so that means adoption occurs where the relative, the CPN or DHS foster family actually adopts the child. And then we do have some occurrences where older teens, especially those, 16, 17, we see that a lot, that they don't want to be adopted, and that they'll age out of custody. And so there are a lot of really great independent living services for those older teens that, help them get an apartment of their own, help them job seek, do college placements. There's a lot of services that we will connect them to. So here's a picture of our Potawatomi cultural boxes that we actually send to every child involved in the child welfare system across the United States. So say we have a child come into care in the state of California, we will send them this cultural box. And inside this cultural box are historical and cultural information, as you guys can see. Potawatomi language resources, tribal programs and services. We have some traditional stories in there, our ancestral family videos. That's something that we worked on so that our children can learn about their families. And then we kind of do put some fun stuff in there, as you can see, like a pop socket and earbuds with our information on there. And we just really try to keep our children connected to their culture and to their tribe and teach them as much as we can. We often have our children reach out to us and want to know more about their tribe and say they never knew they were even a tribal member until they were involved in child welfare for some reason. And so we really try to get those to them as quickly as possible. And we've heard amazing feedback from, we've even had some of them write us thank you notes, which are so precious. And we've even had workers, in several different states call me and say, this is amazing. We've never had this another tribe do this for our children, and this is great. They are so appreciative, and they've learned so much. So, and now I will go ahead and let Kendra talk to you all about the foster care and adoption program. Kendra, you are on mute.
I was actually singing, so it's probably good. Thank you, Ashlee. So as I said in the beginning, my role here is the foster care adoption manager. I'm actually the only worker that we have on staff who handles working with foster parents and adoption. And so definitely we have a lot of different aspects to that. So I wanted to go over that today. Part of that is processing adoption paperwork for children when they are available for adoption, and also assessing applicants who wish to become a foster adoptive home. We constantly need homes for Potawatomi children. There's really, it's a need that's really hard to fulfill. We seem to never have enough for the amount of kids that we have in care. Foster parents are really important because they're the ones who guide and support the children in their greatest time of need, and also recognize that they have experienced trauma. And so what does a foster parent do? They provide daily care, love, and emotional support to children who have been faced with trauma. A lot of these children have been abused and neglected, if not just abused or neglected. They also keep a child engaged with their normal activities. So you can enroll a child in soccer, in baseball, in cheerleading, piano lessons. As a foster parent, you get to help make sure that they get to be a quote unquote normal child. A foster parent also promotes a relationship with the birth family. That's really important to know that as a foster parent, you're looked at as a temporary caregiver. And so the goal would be for a child to return back to their family. And in the event that that does happen, we want to make sure they have that relationship. And also a foster parent helps ensure children have access to their culture and their heritage. And through processes like the cultural box, different trainings, information about events, we help here at FireLodge make sure that you have the resources that you need to help them connect. So why are Native foster homes needed? The Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978, it does set guidelines for the placement of Indian children. Also, our tribal law set guidelines for the placement of Potawatomi children. There are not enough Native homes available for Potawatomi children, particularly sibling sets, older children, and children that have special medical or maybe behavioral needs. And so if you're here today wanting to know about fostering or adopting, there's a good chance that we may have a child right now that would be a good fit for your home that you could help take care of. Whether you're interested in only younger ages or maybe a certain amount of children, really, we need a variety of people willing to step up. You also have an ability to help support their unique cultural needs as well. So who can be a foster parent? So currently you do have to live in Oklahoma to be a foster parent for us. The majority of our child welfare cases that are concentrated here in Oklahoma. And so the cases outside of Oklahoma, we may see a little bit more in certain states like Texas, Kansas, and somewhat on the West Coast, but there's really not a concentrated area. So it's difficult to approve foster homes out of state and be able to place children there. While I'd love to fly to your home every month to visit a child or to approve your home, it's just really not feasible for us. And so what we do, if you live in another state, if you become a licensed foster adoptive home, I actually have a spreadsheet and a list that I keep, and you would have a file. Your foster care adoption worker would send me a copy of all the paperwork you completed, and then I would utilize that. And in the event a child in your area, or maybe even in another state, needed a foster adoptive home, then I can kind of be like a connecting person for that. And I have that situation happening right now with, I have kids, we'll just say in Nebraska, and the foster home is in, we'll say, Minnesota. And so what I've done is we've talked to the workers for the children in Nebraska and said, hey, we're aware of a home in Minnesota that's Potawatomi. They're approved through this agency. They would like to adopt children, and we feel like this would be a good fit. And so we can help, help with that as well. So if you don't live in Oklahoma and you're attending, definitely still consider helping children in your state. And there's that possibility that we can connect that. And you don't have to be married to be a foster parent. That is a big misconception. You can be single, you can be divorced. You don't have to just be a man and wife. And then as far as your heritage, you do have to be a citizen of a federally recognized tribe, be at least 21 years of age, and also be financially stable. And so foster parents can have really any type of financial background or any type of job history. You may be a teacher, you might be a doctor. Regardless of what your job is, as long as you are able to take care of your own family first financially, then additional children, that's what we look for. Also, you do have to pass criminal and child welfare background checks. And so what that means is if you've ever had traffic tickets and things like that, we actually do get that information. But when we talk about criminal, we're talking about misdemeanors, felonies. There are certain crimes that automatically disqualify you to be a foster parent, and that's actually federal law. There's also some crimes that maybe some criminal history that might be a little concerning, but we can look into it and we might decide that, okay, we can work with you because this was in the past. This is the situation occurred in their life at this time. And same thing for child welfare history as well. We review everything. So if you're not sure if something that's listed on here, maybe you're worried about your finances or worried about, well, I had this thing happen in my past, the best thing to do is talk to me and I can just kind of share with you my assessment of it. It never hurts to apply, and so that we can have that conversation. So what is the application process? The first thing to do is call or email. It's great that you're here today so that you're able to kind of get an overview. And so when you call me or email me, I usually like to set up a time to speak on the phone. Often we talk for 30 minutes to an hour to get to know each other. I get to hear about like what your desire is, what your even qualifications are. And then I can share more about our program as well. And you can request a packet. And so the packet, I'll show a picture of that on the next slide, but those forms you will fill out. There's a checklist. It's just a small piece of the process. We try to make it easy in the beginning. So you will submit that and you can mail it. If you would like to mail it, I even send you a pre-stamped envelope just to make it that much easier. But you can also email all the forms back as well if you prefer. And then, so once you've submitted all your documentation and everything is processed, I review it. And then I decide, okay, is this person, did they meet all the criteria to move forward? Then we can begin the home study process. And so we're going to talk about that. And again, here was a picture of the packet. So within there, we have an application. We have, we ask about your health, your financial status, criminal, child welfare history. And also we ask about what are your ideal children to take placement of, and make sure that what you're wanting does match up with how our program operates. And so that your expectations are in line with really how we operate this program. So as you'll see there, we send you a CPN seal sticker as well. So what is a home study? It's a great question. If you're not aware, I definitely wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about that so that you know what to expect in this process. Home study is a written assessment regarding the ability and fitness of the applicant to foster and adopt. And so some people may look at it as like a biography. It's not that. It really is an assessment to make sure that you are capable of doing this. It's a time that you are being educated on what it's like to care for these children. It also helps us evaluate how capable and suitable you are to open your home to children who have been abused and neglected. It is my sole responsibility here as the person interviewing you, processing paperwork, checking your references to make sure that a child does not get further abused and neglected if they were to be placed in a foster home. The home study also gathers information that helps me match you with children. So during that time, I get to know you better and kind of see like what you think what kind of children you think you could best care for. And I can also help you with that in that process as you're thinking about it. Often it changes. I've had foster homes that I approve that they were wanting an infant, like a child under 1, and they ended up adopting teenagers. So as you go along in this journey, you'll find that your heart leads you in different directions. And the home study, it really is the lengthiest part of this process. Rightly so. This is the time that I'm getting to know you and really making sure that, this is going to be a good thing for a child. So the elements of a home study are different per state or tribal or even private agency. But typically they consist of multiple home visits and interviews. Mine are most often 3 different home visits spread about a week and a half to 2 weeks apart. So over the course of a month. We talk about your purpose and motivation for wanting to do this, your family background, so your early childhood, your relationships, what your daily routines are. It's really important for me to learn about your beliefs on parenting and discipline. What are the resources that you have access to? Do you have access to medical care? Do you have access to, things that you would need to provide for a child? The safety of the physical home. So this one's pretty easy. Everyone's most worried about their home passing the background check, and I've hardly ever had any issues with that. If you, if I see any safety issue, maybe there's a wire, those are usually things that are really easily fixed before I even come to the next home visit. We also discuss your spiritual beliefs and religion. You don't have to have a certain religion or belief to be a foster parent for us, but we want to ensure that we know what your values are so that we think about if we place a child with you, would all of that work together? And your health is really important to know about, any history of therapy. And also we're assessing, can you do this? Can you take care of kids that have been abused and neglected? And your willingness to support and promote family relationships is vital. I provide you with several books at the first home visit, or sometimes before. I'll send them through the mail, whatever you prefer. And so you'll see here in the picture, we have The Connected Child and The Connected Parent. These are really great books that focus on, they really kind of resulted from a type of therapy called TBRI, or trust-based relational intervention. And it's essentially positive discipline. And there's a lot of really great tips in here. So even if you have your own biological children, or if you don't, this is really good. Maybe you can even use some of these tips with your nieces and nephews, or maybe cousins that you take care of. And also want to give you information about the Indian Child Welfare Act so that you have that knowledge at your fingertips to understand more about really like why we're here, why we are a program. And then I talked about that home safety check. And so we do require a fire extinguisher in the kitchen. We require smoke alarms, but we're really proud to be able to provide those things to you during the approval process. So if you don't have that, don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. I usually ask before I come out. That way in the first home visit, you have that. We even have locks for ovens. We have special cabinet locks. We have anything safety you can think of. I've even had a foster parent who had a keg because they like to brew their own beer, and we were able to buy them a keg lock so that we could help ensure, that there just wasn't any issues with the child, opening that plug. So if there is any type of safety issue, we will surely address it and make sure that we're helping you through that. So once you get approved, what happens? Well, it's time to help our children. I contact you and I talk to you about different children that are in need of placement. A lot of our children are in DHS custody, whether that be in Oklahoma or another state. We have children that are placed in tribal custody. A lot of times it just is because that agency is who was contacted first and who did the investigation, or obviously if they're out of state, that's a little harder for us to be involved in person. And so right now, Whitney is our case manager. And so she and Ashlee and I are helping out with a little bit of cases right now while we fill a vacancy. So every child has a case manager, and we also help the parents if that is applicable to the case. And the case manager serves as a guide for the families and makes recommendation to the court. So I will remain your foster care worker through the whole process of the time that you work with us, but each child that you have will have their own worker as well. So that's a really great thing. We get to work together as a team to make sure that you're supported and the child is supported. After you get approved, I do offer you support. I connect you to any supplies that you need. Like Ashlee mentioned, during COVID, we had a family that had a really hard time finding the size of diapers they needed. It was right when everything started and everything was getting bought out. We were able to actually find some here at Fire Lake Discount Foods and deliver those to the foster parent. So, you know, if somebody is impacted by COVID, we can do a porch drop off with supplies if needed. Whatever we can do to help, we're going to step up and do that. We also share different resources, opportunities for training, events, and then current news. So anything related to the pandemic or our policy changes. Also with COVID, you know, there has been different funding that has been available for tribal members, and I make sure that everyone's aware of that as well. If you're not aware, right now there's going to be some financial distribution to tribal members, and I already had a foster parent call me about that. So I'm going to be gathering information and probably sending that out today or tomorrow to our foster parent email list so that everyone is aware of what we're looking at for that. Once you get approved, you do get a certificate of approval. So that's here on the left. And this is, you know, you can frame it, you can just save it however you want to do it, but we do save that for you. And then here on the right, we recently approved a new foster home, and she's actually lives in Norman. She's pretty local, and these are her dogs, Baby and Piglet, and they are very sweet. But she wanted to share that, you know, they're on this journey together, so you definitely can have pets, and so we thought this was a fun picture for everyone to be able to see, that they get to foster a human too, because really, fostering, it's not just you as a parent, you have your parents, maybe your children, your siblings, you're coming together as a family to help take care of these children. And so we look at that as a community. And then I wanted to share our newsletter that we send out. And so every month, you know, like you may see new newsletters come out for different things that are several pages long. We just tried to make this a little bit more succinct and smaller so that it's easier to look at these resources. And so there's typically a cultural corner. And so I think this one might have been from April. We shared about impactful Potawatomi women. So we try to have history information, language information, the information about the family reunion festival being canceled so that everyone knew what, you know, to prepare for that. And also to talk about development, trauma, health, and safety. So depending on the season or maybe what's going on in the news, we try to share information that's really going to be helpful. And so we also have a Facebook page that we try to keep updated, and we love to connect with people. We like to do giveaways. So if you will, you can either type in FireLodge Children and Family Services into your Facebook search bar, or you can just type in at CPN FireLodge, and that will get you right to our page. So we'd really appreciate if you go do that today. And so this is our contact information. Again, Ashlee is our director, and so she oversees the entire program, and then my role is just foster care and adoption. So if you're here today to learn about foster care, I'm probably going to be a great person to contact after this. And so I want to see if we have any questions now. I'm going to stop sharing. I don't see any questions right now. Feel free to use the chat if you would like to make a comment or ask a question. A quiet group. I think I might have just presented to myself. I'm not sure. So we'll stay on for a couple more minutes in case anyone would like to, if you think of a question, maybe you're working on typing it. Okay, great. We will wait for you, Shannon. Take your time. And again, if you'll follow our Facebook page, we really do post up-to-date information. And as COVID, you know, we've seen a lot of progress with vaccines. The tribe is offering a lot more events now. So hopefully we'll be back in the community and be able to see more people in person as well. But following us on social media is a good way to connect right now. Ashlee, can you think of anything else we didn't share that maybe they might want to know about? I'm trying to think some updates that we have.
No, but Shannon did type out her question. We have a couple questions.
Great,
so
great.
Shannon says, so if I'm understanding correctly, there's only one option for people interested to foster and adopt, or are there options for people who are unable to foster but able to adopt?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Typically we say foster and adopt just to kind of cover the gamut of being a resource parent, I guess if you want to call it that. And so working with us, you can be approved to be just a foster parent. So you know that adoption is not something that I want to do. It's just I want to help kids temporarily. Maybe it's just however your lifestyle is or your living situation. We also have families who only want to adopt, and so they feel like it's a better fit for them to take placement of a child who could stay with them permanently. And I have a lot of families who are willing to do both of those things. And so depending on where you live, if you out in Oklahoma, if you were to go through the state of Oklahoma DHS and not work with a tribe, you get approved as a foster home only or an adoption home only or both. Here, we just kind of make it all together. So if you tell me, hey, I want to only foster, you're still going to be listed in our system as the same way. So it's nothing too rigorous that you have to worry about here. And then do you do prevention classes for new parents before a report and investigation, or is that something you do after there's been an official report? And we'll let Ashlee answer that.
That's a great question. We actually can do that before there's an actual report. So um, sometimes we have families who maybe need those direct services. And so something that we ask them to do to be a part of our family preservation program is to enroll in parenting classes, budgeting classes, allow us to come in their home and do an in-home safety checks. It is a completely volunteer program. It's not unless it's court ordered through our tribal court, but that's very rare that happens. So we do offer that, and it's a great resource to have, especially when we're talking about prevention. So if we can say that we have those parenting classes in place and say that a report does come in midway through those, like you're already addressing those issues, if that makes sense. So
And I believe so. Our domestic violence program we work closely with, and there's times that people may be staying in the shelter or getting services, and there's not a child welfare investigation, but their domestic violence advocate might feel like they could benefit from services to help to, like you said, we're not to that point of removal or an investigation. And so Darian, the coordinator, she's really great. She's very sweet and kind, and I think that that really lends well to her position because she's understanding that people find themselves in tough positions. Even people that abuse and neglect their kids still love their kids, and often they're just facing their own traumas. And so that's really important. Also, as a foster parent, to understand, we have to really realize that things are intergenerational, especially trauma. And then can we speak more about assisting with fostering if you don't live in Oklahoma? Yeah, so what you can do, if you'd like to list your state, Laura, I might have a little more information. Some states I'm familiar with, but what you would do is work with a tribe in your state or a local agency. Often you may call your county DHS. Some states call it DCFS or CFS, Children and Family Services, just your local. And so we have somebody in Minnesota. So I'm not too familiar with Minnesota and how they operate. And okay, you have to move every 3 years. Okay, so really each state does operate differently. But if you become approved through your state or through a local agency in your state, then what you would do is contact me, and then I can speak to your foster care worker, or if you're being approved as an adoptive home, and I keep a copy of all your paperwork. I typically get the home study. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity we have right now with the family that I mentioned, with some fake states mentioned there. But we may see a couple little kids be able to be placed in a Potawatomi home that otherwise probably would have been placed in maybe a native home in that state, but honestly, probably not. And so what I would know is your placement preferences. So like what gender of child, what age range, maybe what their behavioral status is or diagnoses, things like that, whatever you feel like you could best care for. And then we have transferred many cases in from other states and brought children here. I personally have gone. How many times have I gone to Amarillo? Geez Louise. We'll go pretty much anywhere to bring children back to the tribe. And sometimes it's been because the parent wanted that and they wanted to relocate back here from wherever state they were living. And we've also had children that we have brought to Oklahoma and placed in tribal adoptive homes, so that they were not adopted outside the tribe. Because the way that we look at it is every time a child is adopted outside of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, they're being lost from our tribe in a sense. We can't guarantee that they're going to even know their Potawatomi, especially if they're little. So it's really important for us to place children in our tribal homes or connect them to a home, like maybe you guys in another state that would be willing to care for them. And you should have your work move you to Oklahoma. That would be wonderful, Laura. I doubt you have that option, but I'm trying to think too, as far as like, I know a lot of people are usually interested in adoption. Most of the children that get adopted are adopted by their foster parent, but we do have those circumstances to where our Potawatomi children were in a non-native home. There's not a relative. And so we look at their long-term best interest, not just maybe they've been in this foster home for a year, and that's a significant amount of time. But those foster parents have helped those kids learn healthy attachments, and we know that they can reattach healthily to a new family, and we offer that support as well. So definitely you could be in a situation to where you take placement of a child who maybe that family did want to adopt them, but we know it's really best for them to be with their tribe. Not seeing any more questions yet. Okay, well, I do want to thank everyone for attending today. And so just reach out to us if you have any more questions or follow up. I know that this is kind of an introductory presentation. It's really just an overview, and you probably may think of more specific questions later. All you have to do is give us a call.
I think there might be one more. Oh,
okay. Great, perfect.
Nope, they are just asking to share our contact information again.
Yes, yeah, I will share my screen. Let's see. Actually, I will just put it in the chat because I closed that out. So here is our phone number. If you'd like to maybe save that, take a picture, write it down. And that is our main number here, Indian Child Welfare. So you would just have to ask for Kendra or Ashlee, whichever one of you'd like to speak with. And then if you are wanting information about the prevention services, parenting, budgeting, that would be Darian. And thank you all so much for thanking us. We really appreciate that. All right, well, hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Bye.